So the SEC has some recent changes around disclosure that have really made a significant impact on probably the day-to-day job of your average CISO. Sometimes people argue that those requirements around increased transparency and accountability are beneficial because they basically incentivize the organization to be more accountable. But you can also kind of argue the other side of that, which is sometimes when you have to make a lot of reports that ultimately you can create much more noise than signal, and it's not really going to help the people whose data is potentially lost or compromised.
I tend to be a big fan of transparency for corporations. One, because it reduces the power balance between corporations and the people they're serving. And two, because the whole point of a market economy is intelligent buyers making intelligent buying decisions. And the more the sellers can obscure the details of what they're selling, the less good the market works. So I want a lot of transparency. I want a lot of information. And I'm actually not worried about signal versus noise, because there are organizations that will interpret the data and produce signal. Right? In the consumer space, you have organizations like Consumer Reports, right, that will take seller data and then do experiments and report out to buyers, here's information you can use.
What are some recommendations that you might have from a policy standpoint to make such regulation more impactful and really result in the kind of data that'd be useful?
Yeah, I would propose a regulation and see how much the regulated scream. If they scream a lot, you're doing well. If they like it, it's useless. I mean, regulation is not going to work unless it really pisses off the companies being regulated. Because the companies like it when they could hide things. I mean, something as simple as getting airlines to disclose the true fare when people are comparing fares rather than at the last moment when they're buying. Right? That seems like a no-brainer. The airlines screamed. Of course they did. They're going to lose revenue here. But that's something that reduces the power imbalance, gives consumers more choice, being better able to make buying decisions, results in a more functioning marketplace. Right? I want buyers to be able to make intelligent decisions. So they're going to need accurate information. In a sense, that's the whole point of the SEC. I mean, they're formed because companies were hiding bad financials, and shareholders were getting screwed because they didn't know the true value of the companies they were buying. The SEC is created to force publicly traded companies to be more transparent. And the past bunch of decades has been SEC passing rules, companies figuring out how to get around them. It's always this cat and mouse game because the companies want to be obscure. It is cheaper to hide how bad you are than it is to fix it. I mean, this is hard. As a CISO, you work for the company. And this is the way the market works. If you are sort of more ethical than the absolute minimum, you'll be fired and replaced with a less ethical CEO. Right? Just like any officer of the company, because that's the way the system works. That's what the market incents. The market doesn't incent morality. And we in our industry have a history of CISOs quitting because their bosses won't let them do the right thing. We also, and this is new, have a history of CISOs being charged when a bad thing happens. And this is dicey here because we don't know, is it the CISO's fault or is it the environment that the CISO is being put in? So, the Uber case was particularly egregious, and I'm not sure it's a great test case, but that is making a lot of CISOs nervous, and I think it should. I like it when senior management is personally responsible for what goes on in their organizations. And they are in position uniquely to shape how their organizations work and what the priorities are. And having them on the hook for getting it wrong feels good to society.